Yeah, dude. So, I was walking in this building in Santa Ana, and like it was like noon, and there's two exits to the building. I'm in the lobby. It's all like marble and stuff. And there's two exits, and to go around is like 5 extra minutes, right? So I'm going left, and this lady, like, I kind of saw her setting up when I went in to go drop off the paper, and when I came back, she like had the thing blocked off with her little stupid cart and mop bucket and everything. And like, okay, first of all, nothing against janitors, whatever. Like, okay, do your thing, but it also isn't a big deal if I just walk through real quick, get the thing right. So
Yeah.
I'm walking and like, I don't even slow down. I don't stop. I take note and just like, well, okay, I'm going now. And so like I start climbing over the little cone she has, and she's like, you're not coming here. I go, no, you come. And I literally don't even make eye contact. Keep walking, power walk all the way to the door. I open the door and go over my shoulder. Have a nice day. And she was like, why are you coming? Why are you coming? Like all mad. And I was just thinking like, dude, like, I didn't do that to be a jerk. I did it because it's not a big deal. Okay. My shoes are clean. Everything's good. I'm not throwing up all over the floor. Nothing has been changed except that I didn't take an extra 5 minutes to walk around, and I was parked in a spot that I couldn't really park, so I had to get out there. My point is like, you it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, right? It isn't. It's not. I think she was just pissed off because like I thwarted her like authority of like, you know, like you go into a store and they like tape off the restroom and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm cleaning it. Well, that's too bad because I have to pee. So now I'm going.
Well,
Okay?
dude, it's not to be a dick, but it's going to take you 2 seconds to remop that. And, like, not to be a dick, bro, but it's like, all right, he did a thing. Like, I can either let this ruin my day or just, okay, I'm done again.
Right. Like, if I was the guy cleaning the Target store thing, I wouldn't be like, oh, no, my day, like, I can't do my job because this guy's coming in here and messing it up. It's not like I'm going into a dishwasher's thing and messing all his plates up and being like, wash them again. Right?
Yeah.
That's not it.
Dude,
I'm not preventing you from doing your job. You mopped it, and now I'm using the floor. What's the difference between me doing it now and 5 minutes from now when you take the sign down?
Well, and the whole, to go to the bathroom thing, bro, it's like, I'm using the bathroom, dude. I got to pee. I'm literally not affecting you in any way.
Right.
Just, if I was the employee, I'd be like, all right, dude, do your thing.
Dude,
as soon as you're done.
Everyone has been in that situation where it's like, dude, I really have to pee, and this is like the last stop. This is it before like I have to go use the wall around the corner. So it's up to you, man.
Your corner, by the way.
You know?
The corner of your store.
Yeah. So
your store.
So big deals, right? Okay?
That's
How you been holding up with all this Roe v. Wade stuff on the internet? Like, dude, I was watching some serious meltdowns yesterday, and I thought it was weird because I didn't feel any need to comment or anything. I was just like, wow, people.
Yeah, no, I was talking to my wife about that. I was like, yeah, so I have friends on both sides of the aisle, and they're both posting their stuff. And
Same.
I found this meme of Michael Scott. You remember that episode where he's like, he kept telling them they're gonna have a big surprise.
Yeah.
And he's just going. I just posted that. I was like, there's my input. And
Dude.
And here's why, dude. Here's why. Whatever I post, you either agree with me or you don't, and nothing I post is going to do anything other than trigger you or be like, oh, yeah, I agree with you.
There's no debate to be had. It's literally just jumping into a pool of sharks. But I did do this. I did find this one girl who said, if you in any way think this day is a positive in any way, you no longer mean anything to me. I don't care if you're my parents, my family, my friends. You're nothing to me now. And I screenshotted it. And I'm just going to wait until she says she appreciates somebody or Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day. And I'm just going to kind of leave it there and be like, remember when you said this? Because you, like, not to be, maybe I'll DM it to her, right? I'm not going to post it on her picture, but I did that like 3 years ago, not to be a jerk. But this chick was saying all this shit about 4th of July and how it's racist and people shouldn't be celebrating it. There's nothing good about this country. All I had to do, go on her Facebook, look a year ago. Oh, that's you celebrating 4th of July with the whole 4th of July, like red, white, and blue bikini on and everything. I just took a screenshot and went, how about last year? Was it okay last year?
Yeah.
I DM'd it to her because I didn't want to make it like a big public thing. I just wanted her to think like, hey, before you get caught up in the bullshit, like maybe you should like remember like that 4th of July wasn't you celebrating slavery or anything. It was just you having a barbecue with friends and being like, it's cool to be free to do this. Like, I DM'd it to her. That's it. I was just had a little conversation. Like, there's no need to like make it public and like embarrass her or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Go ahead.
what I was gonna say with like, because some of my friends listen to this, so I'll say this is like as nicely as I can without being disrespectful towards what they believe. We just we don't agree on what the issue is, if that, like, in the sense that
100%. Yeah.
yeah. And so for me, it's like Steven Crowder does this, where he says, we don't agree on what the definition of where life begins. So since we don't agree on that, we can't even have this conversation. Because a lot of my friends were posting like, what were they saying? It was something to the effect of like, now I don't have autonomy over my body, and I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, it's, for me, it's like, you still have the same autonomy you always had, in my opinion. Like, I don't see how you lost any autonomy over, because I keep saying this, like, oh, I now the government has control over my body, and I'm like, but they don't, though. In the way I'm looking at it, they don't.
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah. You can't have the argument because we're arguing about two different things.
Exactly.
That's just how it's going to be. There is no, well, there are middle grounds, but that's a whole nother thing. That conversation definitely can't be had right now because tensions are so high and stuff. But I just thought it was funny because so many people were posting and everything, and I literally had no desire or need, or like there's no impetus in me to say, hey, I need to comment on this and set this person straight, or need to argue or whatever. I was literally just like, yeah, watch. In a week, nobody will be arguing about this, and we'll be arguing about the next current thing.
Well, that was my thing too. Was there's some political discourse that I'll get into, because like my friends who are on more of the left side of things are reasonable, and I can have conversations with them about it. But this is one of those subjects where it's like, you're either going to tell me that I'm not a woman, or we just don't agree on what the issue is.
I think the biggest thing for me was like can we argue about it, or are you just going to call me a Nazi?
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to call me a Nazi, then I'm just not going to bother. If we can argue about things, but if you're just going to say, if I don't believe everything you believe, then I'm a piece of shit, then we can't argue about it.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that one thing I appreciate about the friends that I do have on that don't agree with me politically is we're still friends.
Yeah. I think most of them were still friends. I do know one dude was going off one day at work, and then I said like, well, I believe that. He did that twice in 1 week. This other dude, he was like, this girl has like all these like peepers on her car and stuff. She's in mid-30s and stuff, and she wears like a Pikachu beanie and stuff. And after she left, he was like, freaking grown-ass people shouldn't be having a bunch of anime on their cars and shit. It's ridiculous. And then my buddy, he's like 6'4", 220 pounds, like normal dude. He goes like this, pulls out his phone. It's Goku on his phone.
Yeah.
And then he like, you should have seen the look on his face. He was just like, huh. I was like, yeah, because you believe a certain way, but now you're confronted with somebody who's not weird, not a creep about it. He just likes it, and he happens to also do that thing. So, like, that's the most powerful way to, like, quote, convince somebody, is like when somebody rails on Christians, and you're just like, dude, you've been friends with me for 2 years, and I'm a Christian. You had no idea, or whatever. Like, maybe you did, but you thought we were all this, and now you're confronted with me, who isn't like this. So,
and I like the same thing. Yeah, I actually make a lot of guys at the Detox feel comfortable about that, because I'm usually like, oh, I'm the guitar guy, or I'm the metal guy, and then somebody starts talking about anime. I'm like, oh, bro, yeah, did you check out this one? Did you check out this? Like, and they look at me, and I'm like, dude, let's get into anime right now, dude. Let's talk.
Yeah, dude. The speaking on that, like the big deal of things, like where people, I was listening to this podcast by Spencer Clavin, and he was talking about how back in the Republic, Plato's Republic, he talks about how like people got caught up in philosophical conversations and of things that were basically not a big deal. They were trying to figure, and there's a lot of parallels now, because he calls it like the democratic excess that we live in.
Yeah.
And what he means by that is like, we're so concerned with our vote on things that we want to vote on every single little thing. Like, well, here's what I think on everything. So we no longer defer to there. First of all, there's a lot of hubris and a lot of pride in that, because it's like basically saying, here's what I think about the issue that I've thought about maybe for half an hour, scrolled a bunch of memes, decided that's my opinion now. And like, here's what I think. And that's not like a lot of things like I just don't know anything about really other
Yeah.
than my own stupid opinion, which
Well, and that's why I'll choose not to speak on a lot of things because I'm like, yeah, I have an opinion, but it's really uninformed.
yeah, but the democratic excess that we're in now is like, well, I should have a vote and a say on this because I have an opinion on it. And it's like, well, it's not really an informed opinion or anything. It's just what you decided that you think now, right?
Yeah. Well, and on a lighter note, that's kind of what I wanted to get into because with Kenobi wrapping up, and I know we've talked about Star Wars and anime a lot, so we can take this into a broader subject if we want to. But I was watching this YouTuber called Star Wars Theory, and he's fun to watch because he knows way more about Star Wars than I do. And he's
Yeah,
like, this is how
Alex
this...
showed me that years ago.
Yeah. And so he's like, this is how this. So he fills in the gaps for me about like, oh, this does make sense in canon. And he was saying a lot of people had problems with Hayden Christensen's acting in the prequels, and he's like, no, if you read the books and the lore and stuff, this is exactly how he should have been. Yada yada yada, right? So he fills in the gaps in the stuff that I don't know, and he like makes sense of stuff. But he was getting real upset about. I don't know. No, he wasn't getting upset. He started like, and I'm not disrespecting anybody. What I'm saying, he started crying. He does watch parties, so he'll watch the show and everybody.
I've been to those. Yeah.
So he started crying when Qui-Gon showed up, and I'm like, is this healthy, dude? Like, no, but like that was an honest. It's funny, dude. It is funny, but it was an honest question. I'm like it's. I understand like getting into something and having fun with it, but it's like, dude, this thing, like your job is YouTube about Star Wars, and you're so invested in it that this character showed up and it had like an impactful moment as if like you had a baby that was just born, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm not saying I'm okay with it or not. Like you do you, but it is it healthy to be so invested into this fictional world that you're now crying about it, or to take it even further, people are like, oh, you're ruining my childhood, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I knew this guy a couple years ago who one of the 5 main lines he had was like, is this the hill you want to die on? Now there sometimes is a hill you want to die on, but for the most part, like just to take a broader context of it, like in culture now, there's like everybody puts all these red lines everywhere, and it's like, this is the fight of our lives, and it's like, it's not really the fight of your life, man. It's not really consequential at all. Here's what it is. You just want to get involved in something because you feel empowered. You feel like you're doing something. You feel like your life has meaning now because you're not raising a family. You're not part of any institutions. You have a small circle of friends who probably would just get another friend if you croaked or whatever.
Yeah.
They might go to your funeral or whatever. So you want to be part of a movement. You want to fight for a change that means something. Everybody does. Every human being wants that.
Absolutely, 100%.
Every human being wants that. I'm not saying I'm like excluded from that. I'm just saying that I was watching one of the protests yesterday on live stream. It was live stream of Arizona, and this cop, they were all like, "F you pig, da da da, yeah, women this," and then the cop shot a tear gas thing, didn't hit the girl, right? It flew like maybe 50 feet away, and it was doing the thing, and everybody starts screaming, and she goes, "Ow, ow, ow," and it's like, dude, you're not hurt. You're not hit.
Yeah.
If this is the
I got something to say about that.
Yeah. If this is the extent of your iron will to fight for this, like, and you're not even willing to not take a fictitious hit that you didn't take, and you want to cry over it, you don't actually care about this issue, okay? Because what that shows me is you're not willing to go to jail. You're not willing to get hurt. You're not willing to have any kind of like stake in the game. You just want to yell and get some photos and be like, I'm here. It's the same thing as putting a square black for like Black Lives Matter, or posting about it and like slacktivism, right? It's like, you don't really care about this. You care about it in the margins. And really wise dude that I knew used to say, like, your actions are going to demonstrate what you really care about.
Well, that's exactly it. And I always have to bring my kids up, dude, because sadly that's what it reminds me of. Like what you said about the protester reminded me of my oldest kid. I remember he was acting a fool in Sam's Club, and my kids think, well, they're going to be embarrassed. They're not going to do anything about it. I'm like, I'm not embarrassed at all, dude. So I grabbed him and I started pulling him, and he started screaming, "You're hurting me! You're hurting me!" And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not hurting you. You're not embarrassing me. You're not hurt. Like, you're just... It just reminds me of that protester that you were talking about. It's like you're acting like a child.
Yeah. It gets kind of beyond that. Like, what I'm saying is like that. You're making big deals. You're yelling about it, making a big deal, but it's not really a big deal. Not even in your own heart. Not even in your
Okay.
own mind.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
not a
see what
big
you're
deal.
saying.
You might have convinced yourself you care about this, but you don't, because you'll cave as soon as it gets hard. So you don't care. So,
Yeah.
like, for instance, if I really cared about something or cared about an issue, I wouldn't back down from something. I would be like, no, this is so important to me that I'm not moving.
Well,
Right?
dude, it was like COVID. I didn't wear a mask, and I told my boss I'm not getting the vaccine. And you take that with what you will. And you know, we didn't really get to that part of the conversation, but like I told my wife, I was like, I will get fired and I'll go get another job
Same
because
thing.
I'm not getting that vaccine.
Same thing.
I don't believe in it.
Same thing. And that was like one of those, like, I'm not even going to argue about it. It's not worth arguing about. This is just what it is. I'm not getting it. That's just what
Well, it's
it
your
is.
actions. It's just like you said, it's your actions. Political discourse and conversations are important, but at the end of the day, do your actions agree with what you're saying?
Yeah. Now, so to take the other side of it, like when people block roads and stuff, they care about it. Dude, you're
No, yeah,
blocking
yeah.
a road, like especially a highway. I'm like, that's pretty ballsy, dude. Like, I mean, I don't like that they do it, but at least I'm like, okay, you're putting your money where your mouth is. You know, like that's.
Yeah.
I believe you care about this issue. You're delusional, but you care about it.
But you're doing the thing.
But you're doing the
putting
thing,
your money
right?
where your mouth
You're
is.
not just showing up and screaming and yelling on Facebook, ranting to your own friends who you have probably already filtered out the people you don't like. So you're just preaching to the choir, echo chamber, right?
Yeah.
And you're literally doing nothing, and you're gonna calm down, and everybody, at least subconsciously, is gonna be like, yeah, this freaking she loses it sometimes.
Well, that's why I don't post anything on social media. It's for two reasons. One, I don't have a big following, and so what am I really doing by that? Like everybody who knows me already knows where I stand. And two, I don't really think it does a whole lot.
I think I post for me to like look back on my Instagram. Sometimes I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like it just because I don't like uploading crap to the cloud. I guess Instagram kind of is the cloud anyway, so maybe I'm defeating myself. But
Well, I like the memory aspect of it. So I'll put memories on there, like my kids and stuff.
I'll post
right?
funny
That's fun.
stuff, like
funny
FU,
stuff.
that's
for sure.
why
I'll
post that. I'll post some funny like little sayings I have, like.
Oh, your meme game's on point lately, by the way. Your meme game's on point. Yeah.
I'll always just post little random tidbits too, like I don't have to look one up, but just something that comes to mind that I thought is pithy and funny, and it's just like a one line quote that I think is funny. But other than that, I'm not posting like, hey everybody, here's like a 3-long essay on why crypto's the new best thing or whatever. I really don't care that much.
Well, and dude, I'm not convincing anybody on social media. You
Yeah,
either
that's what
already
it
agree
is.
with me or you already don't agree with me.
That's what it is. It's not a big deal. And even when it's a big deal, it's not once you put it on social media. It's just not. First of all, there's way too many trolls and edgelords.
Yeah.
First of all, I know because every other post I see about somebody saying, guys, can we tone it down? I just want to say, tone these nuts down. Tone down these nuts.
Well, dude,
I just want
it's the internet. It's the don't these nuts, dude. You know what? On a side note, I'm fully in favor of bringing these nuts back. Bring it back, dude. Bring it back.
Dude, what brought it back to me was like this dude was like yelling about doing like really menial work. We were all doing pretty menial work, but it's okay because it was a job that needed to get done, and that's my attitude. I'm like, dude, I gotta get this done. It's just gonna get done. I'm not gonna go F this. I'm just gonna get it done. But he was having a little episode, right? Because I guess he like owned his own plumbing business. Pretty young, a couple years older than me, and he was like, "You like somebody's like, dude, EJ, shut up and just do it, man." He's like, "You don't even know, bro. I'm gonna be stacking paper. You're gonna be sorry." And he was just like, "Stack these nuts, dude." And I'm like, "Dude, yeah." Yes.
Well,
I'm not going to argue with you about why you're wrong or childish. Just stack these nuts, dude.
You know what, dude? Why would I be mad about you stacking paper? I hope you do stack that paper, and I'll be happy for you if you do. Until that time, stack these nuts.
Right. It's like, it's really dismissive. I don't care. Any point you're trying to make or something, dude, don't talk about it. Just go be about it then.
Well, dude, it's like when guys come through the detox and they decide they're going to AMA, and I'm trying to like, dude, this is a really bad decision, and no, you'll see, because I tell them all the time, like, dude, like, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but you're going to go out and you're going to use. No, I'm not. And I'm like, well, you know what, dude, I really hope you don't. I hope you do prove me wrong, but until you do, this is where we're at there, kid.
Kid? That's okay. That's another thing. I was having this debate the other day. Like, what do you think is more like disrespectful? If I was going, hey, pal, or like, it was either hey, pal, or hey guy,
Mhm.
like guy, can you take care of this for me? Or hey pal, take care of this for me. Or
Yeah.
the third one, hey you take care of this for me. Which one's the most disrespectful?
Hey, you. That's the worst one. Yeah.
You,
It,
you.
you know what, yo? It all depends on how you say it too. Like, hey guy. Like that's not just hey guy. Like I don't know your name. Hey guy. Right. But if you hey, it depends on how you say it.
I
But
can't stand.
pal is like I don't like pal either. It would be
I don't like
you,
Bud either.
you, pal, and then guy. No, dude. You know what's funny is I don't like Bud either, and I find myself saying it all the time when I go wake up.
What's up, bud?
Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
it's time for next round. Like, well,
No, that's different.
yeah.
I'm talking about when people are say like, yeah, bud, what's going on, bud? Like, dude,
Well, because that's what I say to my kids.
that's why
that's
I don't
what people
like.
say to
That's
their
why I
kids.
don't
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's why I don't like it because it implies this hierarchy where you're saying where it's like, yeah, I'll deal with your like I'm asking him a question and he's saying, what's up, bud? Basically, like, yeah, you come to me and I'll decide what happens. Like basically, I'm coming to like an authority figure and I'm not.
Well, it's like this. Hey, buddy, wait a minute. Right? Like you're having a conversation. Hey, bud, why don't you go? Grown-ups are talking right now. Right?
Is it really a big deal though? I don't know.
You know, dude,
I don't know.
that's a lot of the questions I have to ask myself lately. Is what do I feel like making a big deal and what do I feel like letting go? And most of the time, it's like I'm gonna let this one go. I can't. I don't have the energy to be mad about everything.
It's not even like I'm gonna let this go and absorb the bullshit. It's more of like this doesn't really affect me, and you just go be dumb. I don't care.
Yeah,
Go
no,
be dumb.
that's exactly what I mean. I'm gonna say exactly what you just said, but I'm not absorbing it. I'm just choosing not to let it affect me. Right?
What's another pernicious big deal in society that people think is a big deal? They make a big deal, and it's not a big deal. There's a lot of things that are actual rights that I think are important today. Free speech is one of them. Definitely
Oh yeah.
a crazy area right now, and it's going to be interesting how it gets ironed out. But there's some other things that just aren't a big deal that also get caught up in that are just like, I think diversity is one of them. It's just not that big a deal, and everybody's like pushing it, and it's like, dude, do you really care about this? Do you really care about seeing like the perfect ratio of colors of people in a room? Like, well, the population's 14% black, so we need 14% black people and this and this. Do you really care about that?
Well, and Jordan Peterson talks about that a lot. If you just leave it alone, people will sort themselves out how they want to be sorted out, and everyone will be okay with it. You know what I mean? Because he talks about like, you know, there's more men engineers and there's more women nurses, and that's not that's not because of anything. That's because that's just what they want to do. So why are we trying to force people to do things that they don't want to do to fill the quota or the ratio?
Yeah, I think the other thing about it is that like people, they'll sort themselves out in more ways than just employment. They'll like a lot of people, for instance, don't want to be around certain people, right?
Yeah.
Like for instance, if somebody has a problem with, say they have an issue with how I feel about the Second Amendment. They found out or whatever. Doesn't affect my job, but they just don't want somebody who's capable of holding that opinion around. Should they be okay to sort me out or not sort me out?
You mean like fire you?
Yeah, fire me. Or fire me, evict me. It's their house. I'm renting.
Would it be okay for the... Okay, well, let's take it to the job
Say
aspect.
I don't even have a gun. Say I just believe in owning guns and fight for owning guns.
Okay, well, but let's take it to one scenario so I can really think about it.
Okay.
Let's take it to a job scenario.
Okay.
If they're against the Second Amendment and you're for the Second Amendment, I don't think they should be able to fire you.
But that's just us sorting each other out, isn't it?
I think it's okay to sort people out in your social circle. I don't think it's like non-discrimination. That would be like saying, well, you're really good at this job, but you're black, so I don't want to hire you. To me, it's the same thing.
And that should be illegal.
I don't.
It is illegal, but
I'll tell you this. So
I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just asking.
Yeah. So I had a guy who worked at the Detox who posted a lot of political stuff, and Jeremy said, put out this thing like no more political stuff because now you're tied to Monte Cristo. And do I think that's okay? No. Let me make it simpler. If I am espousing what I believe at your place of business, you can ask me to stop. If I don't stop, take whatever action you feel is necessary. But it is, to your point, it like I'm gonna go for my boss because we're not a huge corporation. There's one dude who owns it, so it's really easy to make an example. If he said, "I don't care what you believe, don't talk about it at work." Fair enough, dude. It's your business.
You're paying me.
You're paying me. You took all the risk building this thing up. If this business goes under, I'm affected in a way other than I don't have a job. You're affected in whatever legal fees, money, finance, all that stuff. So I don't think you should be able to fire me because of what I believe. But if you say, hey, don't talk about that crap here, okay, fair enough.
I shouldn't be able to fire you for what you believe. However, if I was a customer and I boycotted you for what you believe, is that different? If everyone's boycotting you for what you believe, is that different than firing? Because basically it's the same thing. You're going to be out of business.
Is it the same thing? No, I don't think it's the same thing. Dude, it's just like Chick-fil-A. If you don't like Chick-fil-A, don't go to Chick-fil-A.
That's what I prefer. So that's what I'm saying. Like, have it out in the open, and then people can decide. Like, for instance, I just don't buy from Nike anymore, for many reasons. Not just their woke BS, but like the fact that they still use that crap in China, and they totally use like terrible labor practices there. And I'm just like, I just can't buy these anymore. I love these shoes. I just can't buy them anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think a customer is different than an employee, right? Because a customer, you get to choose. Like, obviously, as an employee, you also get to choose where you work. But at the same time, if I'm not espousing the things you not to ask me to espouse, like there is non-discrimination laws that I do agree with. I don't think it should be meritocracy, right? And so if I'm the best at the job and I'm not doing the things you asked me not to do, I don't think there should be a reason to fire me.
Okay, let me set up this scenario. Say I fire all my employees who are left wing. Say I fire all of them, right? Say I own a coding company. We take in contracts and we'll write somebody's app, create it, and give it to them. I fire all my left wing employees for say they're pro gay marriage or whatever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Say I fire all of them, and those are all my best coders though. And I fired them for that. And they're just gonna stop coding? No, they're gonna go to another company, and that other company is gonna be better. So I just shot myself in the foot for firing them. So if it wasn't illegal, they'd still be around, and I could make life for them terrible in other ways, and they'd promote my business. But if it was legal to discriminate, I would discriminate against them and pay for it in the back end, right? So it's like say a dude fired all his black employees, but they're good employees. So they go to another job, and that other job does better now, and the racist loses in the end.
Yeah. No, I see. You're taking the Ben Shapiro argument where I think...
Does he argue that?
No. Well, I'll tell you what he's arguing about. I can't remember who he was talking with. Maybe Bill Maher. He was talking with somebody, and he was talking about how the market will dictate, and they were talking about smoking in bars. He was like, well, there'll just be a bunch of businesses that don't allow smoking without government intervention, and the one that does allow smoking will either sustained by people who like smoking or it'll go out of business because people don't want to go where everybody's smoking.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your argument, sort of. As far as discrimination goes, like the market's going to dictate basically, right? If you're a terrible employer and you're hiring subpar people and you're also not hiring black people are going to be, A, you guys make a terrible product, and 2, you're super racist, and I just don't want to support that.
To be honest, dude, I like it the way it is with protections because I don't want to go to work and have to worry about like you're going to fire me for something I can't control.
That's what I'm saying. So like I meet in the middle on that one. Like I think some government intervention is okay. I'm more 100%. for less government intervention, but it is there to protect our rights. And like one of our rights is like we're people, and you can't I can't change the fact that you're black, right?
Yeah.
And that bleeds off into other things that you can change, like your opinion on Second Amendment. But you got to hold the line firm somewhere, or else everyone's just gonna go buck wild with it, and we're gonna have parallel economies basically.
Yeah, I would rather have the protections because, like I said, like I have had jobs where I've walked in and been like, I have to worry about like what I say, who I literally have to kind of hide who I am, or I'm gonna get fired. And I shouldn't have to worry about doing a good job. That's it.
Yeah, well, and that's where I'm fortunate. Like I watched. I sometimes have to dial back Tim Pool and Ben. I had to dial back on that stuff because they talk about like the extreme leftists, and I'm like, dude, I'm friends with leftists, and they're like my boss is pretty liberal, and I've never had an argument with him. We've had discussions about things we agree on, and it's been like really good. And plus, like I'm a Christian, I'm more conservative, and I work for that dude, and we both get along great.
One thing I have encountered that I like about the leftists in my circles is that they push respect mostly above everything else. Like they don't like when you talk. This one dude at work, he was like, We got talking about religion. I didn't say I was a Christian or anything. He was just some dude going off on Christians because he said he went to Catholic school once as a kid, so he knows. And I'm like, I was not arguing with him, but I was basically telling him, I was like, if I went to a Buddhist temple for 4 years and didn't participate in any of the rituals and didn't believe in any of it and didn't meditate or anything, would you say I was a Buddhist? No. You would say I went to a Buddhist temple for a little while. So with all due respect, you're not a Catholic. You never were.
Yeah.
You just stayed in a room that had a cross on it. That's it. And he was like getting upset about, like, he was like, it's all lies and BS and you got to be dumb to do it. And this other liberal dude was like, hey, like, no matter what you believe about it, like, I just prefer if you treat everybody with respect, you know, no matter what they believe and stuff. I was like, that's a cool way of looking at it. Like,
Yeah.
I can disagree with you, but that doesn't mean you're a total freaking moron. Like that's the whole issue on arguing with the other side is like, can I come to the table and see you as a person who, like, just like me, has their own ideas and formations and, like, doesn't necessarily make you a moron. It just means you're entrenched in what you believe.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
Well,
you-
and also Jordan Peterson said, I assume you know something I don't, which is why when I come to the table to a conversation, I don't just assume you're an idiot. You must know something I don't, even though I don't agree with you ideologically.
Right. Well, you might not know something I don't, but you believe what you believe for some reason, and that
Yeah.
curiosity in me is like, why does this person believe this when we're looking at the same car accident? Why does this person believe this happened?
That's why I like
That makes me curious. I'm like, how did you come up with that? Like, what makes you think that? And
Yeah.
so, like, that curiosity makes me come, like, from a point of respect of like, tell me why you think what you think.
Yeah.
Basically, not you're dumb and wrong for thinking what you think. And that's what this dude was basically trying to say was like, hey, like, at the very least, let's all come to the table out of respect. Like, we all disagree on all kinds of things. Red is the best color. That's
Yeah, I remember
that's
this
not
one, yeah.
open for debate, right? That is the best color. So if you think any other color is the best, you're just wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. But
You're wrong.
my point is, like, I think there's these weird linchpins where it's not a big deal that somebody thinks this. 99% of the rest of their character could be awesome, but if they think this one thing, you're just like, oh no, that's it. You're in this box and you're done. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Right? You're in the Nazi box, basically.
Yeah. And that's what I do appreciate about the friends I do have is that I don't even know if they're liberal or leftist. They just don't agree on a lot of things that I agree with, but they also don't think I'm a Nazi because of the way I believe, and vice versa.
Yeah, I don't get accused of being.
Well, dude,
I don't get accused of being religious or conservative until we start talking about sex. Then I start getting people think I'm super conservative because I just don't like watching smut on TV and stuff.
Well, it goes into for me I'm gonna say something. We're gonna get a little controversial with the whole Roe versus Wade thing, and, like, sorry if you guys don't agree with me. Don't take offense to this. You keep saying, "Oh, I don't have autonomy on my body," and I'm like, sex is serious, dude. Like, you know how babies are made. Sex is serious. In my opinion, there's no such thing as casual sex. In my opinion.
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone. They said that it didn't mean anything or whatever. They were like, yeah, you know, I had sex or whatever, and didn't mean anything. And I was like, well, I don't understand that, and I can't understand it because for me, like, that's never happened to me. Even when I tried to have casual sex when I was younger,
Yeah.
like, we still ended up dating, catching feelings. Like, I have never had an encounter where I slept with somebody and went like, okay, have a good life. I'm going this way, bye, and not talking to him again. I've never had that. So I, like, maybe it's a defect in me. I'm literally incapable of understanding how people do that.
That's
And
the way. Yeah.
in my
put it
mind,
that way too. Yeah.
in my mind, they aren't doing it. They think they are. I was on this date with this girl, like, a while ago. She was like, you leave a piece of yourself with somebody, whether you realize it or not. And I'm like, yes, you do. And whether or not we realize that at the time, like, you do, like, give a piece of yourself away when you're doing that. Like, I'm not saying that people are trash when they have a high body count or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the idea of intimacy, of a closed circle of two people sharing something. Say you're staring on a cliff, staring at a sunset with one person, and every day you go back with a different person. Is it really that special anymore of a moment? Or, like, you're still sharing the same sunset. It's still beautiful. It's still fun. It's still, you know, probably have different conversations. Some people are probably better partners than others to share that sunset with, but the sunset itself, because it's less of a like, hey, remember when you and I shared that moment? You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I want to say two things. One, I'm not condemning or judging or telling anybody that they should feel wrong about however they live their life. And two, for me, the longer that I'm married to my wife, and the more moments that I've only shared with her, that I've never had a baby with anybody else, and I've never had a house with somebody else. Like, the more moments that we have together that I've only done with her, they are, to your point, they're really special, because I've only done it with this one person.
Because that's the nature of intimacy. That like, intimacy is not a word that just, it's a placeholder for sex. Intimacy is that bond you have where you're like, this one other person. Everybody knows that phrase when you're like, oh, it's my person. Like, there's the person that gets you and understands you, can feel what you're going through when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
Or you sometimes you're like, I don't know, something's just wrong. And you like text them and you're like, are you okay? You know, like, you just, you know what I mean? That weird sense.
Dude, that's what I love about my wife. Like, sometimes I'll just look at her and she'll be like, all right. And she just knows. Like, we have that. And man, that's awesome.
But I'm not saying, like I said, I don't have like a super low body count or anything. I'm not a saint. I'm just saying that, like, I have never had a moment where, like, I've just, like, I've definitely wanted to sleep with, like, just you know, have sex with everybody. I'm still a guy.
Yeah.
I'm still, you know, I'm still walking around, and sometimes I'm just like, damn, dude. Right? My point is that when you're actually, that intimacy is a big deal. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a special moment. It is a big deal. And, like, for some reason, like, I could never get past that fact. And I think, to my credit, I like that, because I have never needed to explore a bunch of weird crap sexually to figure out what I wanted. I always know what I want. I want, like, deep, intimate connection, like, deep connection with somebody on a physical, mental, and spiritual level.
Yeah, we were talking about in the first podcast, the layers of love. Yeah.
So I've always known that I wanted that. Somebody was asking me, like, you know, what about people who do that stuff? What about them? I'm like, I don't judge them. I kind of feel bad for them, because they have to go through the winding road to figure out the things that they like. Like this, like, some people try, you know, multiple partners at the same time, different partners. They got to try, like, then they go to, like, weird criteria and start introducing different kind of play into it. Are you just exploring just to see if it feels good, or are you trying to find out what you like? I don't know. Like, I've never had to worry and deal with that. And then all of that turns into baggage at the end. Whether you realize it does or not, it all turns into baggage, because the first thing you do is, with your next partner, you're going to compare to all the other ones.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you're going to do. Secondly, you're going to want different flavors. Like, for instance, sometimes it's really intimate. Sometimes it's rough. Sometimes it's, you know, you can have that all with one person, right?
Yeah.
Or you can decide that the other dude was, like, doing this one area more, so I want him just for that 1/8 of it, but I want you for the other 7/8 of it, and your mind starts going different ways, where it just sets up a cognitive dissonance, if you will.
Yeah.
Where you have this one person that you love, that's your intimate significant other, but you held back some for this other person that you sometimes think of, or whatever, what have you. You know, it just takes honesty to admit that, and I know it happens more often than people admit, because people just aren't honest about these things.
Yeah, no.
Because you know why they're not honest, dude? Because they know they're wrong. Because if you didn't think you were wrong, you would just say it, right?
It's the same thing that I think people are taken aback by Christianity, because now you have to admit that some of the things you were doing were wrong, and you don't want to admit that.
Exactly. That's my whole point, is that when people omit facts, and I can tell when they're lying. You know, you can tell when they're omitting something.
I can tell when I'm lying to myself.
At the very least, it means they're embarrassed about it. Why are you embarrassed about it? Because it's wrong. You don't want people to think less of you, because you figured out that you're willing to do it as long as nobody knows, because it's shameful, right?
Or if you're in the right culture.
There's a weird push where people don't want to, I guess they call it slut shaming or body count shaming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I try not to do that, because, look, dude, like, I've made mistakes in life, and mistakes come in all different shapes and sizes. but like, I'm just saying, like, it's not about shame. You're bringing the shame because you won't say your number, right?
Yeah.
So like if I asked somebody, which I will never do because that's stupid to ask, but if I were to ask somebody like, what's your body count? Nobody's going to be honest about that.
Well,
but
and
ask yourself why you won't be honest about it, because you have a problem with it, not me.
that's the thing. I'll take it to alcoholism. When I see a guy for the third time coming through my detox, head down and everything, you're not ashamed because I'm judging you. I'm not judging you at all. Like, this is the first thing I tell a guy that comes through for the second or third time.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm really glad you're alive. I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad to see you. Right? And like, oh, man, I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not embarrassed because of me. You're embarrassed because of what you did.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
That's sort of, and I always have to go in a roundabout way because people will always, like, whenever I have this conversation, I always try to take myself out of the equation. Basically, I'm saying, look, like, here's my sexual history, just so you know that I'm not, you know, I'm not this dude that's been like, you know, you sinner, you know, like, I'm not doing that.
Well, dude, and the longer that I stay sober and the longer that I'm married, everyone at the detox anyway, I don't know about my friends, maybe they have it doesn't matter, they're like, oh, the old Saint Nick over there, and I'm like, let's sit down and let's have a chat about my history, dude. Like, because I tell guys this all the time. I'm like, I'm not better than you, dude. I did all the same things. I just don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between you and me, is I just stopped doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's the whole roundabout conversation. It's like, I have to start with that premise just so you know I'm not judging you from a pulpit or anything. Well, I'm not even talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
I have to qualify. Let me qualify real quick. It's the same thing in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, right? Like, you tell your history not so that people like. So you qualify, right? Oh, people are like, oh yeah, he did do the stuff that I did too, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You qualify real quick, and that's the same thing with the sexual stuff. Like when guys come with their shame and the detox, and I'm like, well, here, let me qualify for you real quick.
Give you my credentials.
Let me give you my credentials real quick and let you know that I'm not better than you.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm doing that first and foremost just to show I'm not judging from a pulpit, and I'm not even bringing religion into it. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the fact of human nature that we all know innately. Jealousy is a human emotion, and it's there for a reason. And sometimes people block it out and say they're not jealous and stuff, but you are, and it does vex you. That's the right word for it.
That's a great word
for it. Yeah, people will dwell on it over and over. That's why people will sit there in a bed and like alone and torture themselves about what their significant other's doing, or what their old significant other's doing, and the jealousy of it and stuff, because there's this weird bond that was broken that's seeking to, like, it's like, well, where is it? In your own psyche, your own subconscious is trying to like relink, but you've already put a sledgehammer through that, and it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
it's a truth of human nature. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. Now, the solution is in it, religious solutions to it, but it's a human nature problem, right? So the idea of, I don't want to get into a lecture or anything. I'm just saying, like, I always have to go a roundabout way, because they always, first they say that, like, oh, you just haven't had the right partners. Secondly, they say you're just threatened. Your masculinity is threatened by a high body count. Like, you just, you know, why are you so self-conscious about it? If you were secure in your masculinity, you wouldn't care. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it has nothing to do with my masculinity. I get callbacks from virtually every ex, okay? I'm not worried about that, okay? As long as you, like, you don't have to.
Well, and even if I didn't get callbacks, I'm not insecure about it.
That's not, that has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that, like, my human nature and my desire for intimacy is hampered by multiple people being in the one circle that's meant for two people, two halves of the whole, the yin and the yang, right? The two halves of the whole. It's not yin yang and a splash of turquoise, right?
I'm sorry. No, that's I loved your metaphors. They just hit the nail on the head.
That's the harmony and balance of two. You know what, dude? The reliability of two people. When there's the less people in the circle is better for so many more reasons than just intimacy. For trust, when you have one person to trust and count on, that's so much better than just than having the two people that know the same secret or whatever. The one things you confide in.
Let me take it to a broad aspect from it. It takes a village. I'm like, no, it doesn't, because you're not gonna make the same decisions I do, that me and my wife do. Like, it takes a village in like raising a kid.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I disagree with that.
You might think that
it doesn't take a village, right? Because you're not going to put forth the same same rules, same ideology, same consistency So it doesn't take a village.
And that's why, dude, that's why more than two makes such a big difference, because the levels of love, like I said, like somebody can love somebody more than the other person in the circle. That's already bad. It's going to break, right?
Yeah.
But if two people are committed to each other and the love is the same, then you're both acting in each other's best interest. When you have a third person, now you're worried about a whole third level. And honestly, with the way jealousy works, with the way human nature works, that third person, all the levels are going to change. There's going to be more level for this guy than this chick, or more level, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The love balance is not going to work out, because you can say you love two people the exact same, but you cannot do that.
Yeah.
You cannot literally I know we're getting into semantics, but you cannot give your whole heart to more than one person.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a logical inconsistency, right? You're giving it to that person, but you cannot give it to two people at once.
Yeah. Well,
You might think you are for a time.
Yeah.
But
well, at the end of the day, you're sacrificing for. Even if you sacrifice the same amount, it's not always at the same time. So it's always unbalanced.
And look, this isn't me saying that you need to change. If you want to go do that, go ahead and do it. I'm telling you why I have arrived at the way I think about relationships and sex. These are the reasons why I think the way I think. It's not because I was taught it. It's not because some sky fairy told me to. It's literally because my own heart and human emotions tell me what's right or wrong. Now, for those of us in the know, we call that prompting of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
But you don't have to get religious about it. Your consciousness, which I call something else, you can call it your consciousness, tells you that this is the way it is. From a very early on as a little kid, tells you that that's how it is. But, people...
Dude, that's so true too, right? Because my oldest knows the difference between right and wrong. And is it because I taught him that? No. He already knew it. He began to learn it anyway at a really young age. It's there.
Yeah. I don't know how we got on this conversation or whatever. But I'm basically just saying that intimacy is a word that's just kind of thrown out now. Like a lot of times it's like even synonymous with like when I think of like the word intimate, I think of like some sex toy store. It's like intimate relations or like intimate encounters. There we go. That's, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean what it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean what it means. So
yeah, well, so going off on that, that's what we were talking about. And I do not mean this in a disrespectful way. It's just what it is. We don't agree on the reality of the situation. We don't agree. And I was thinking about this the other day at work. We don't even agree on definitions of words.
We don't even agree on the point of sex or the role of sex. We don't agree on any of these core cultural values. We just don't agree on any of them.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Like when we were talking about Roe versus Wade and I don't have autonomy out of my body, I was like, it's not about having that right. It's for me, it's about take sex seriously, because it is one of the most serious things you can do.
So that's kind of my rationale too. Like before I even get to the point where I tell you what or what not to do with whatever's inside of you, whether it's a kid or not, before we even get to that point, there's a whole other precursor problem here, which is sex, that's already out of whack, out of skew. And I like the way C.S. Lewis put it, because he was basically saying like, if you had a country full of people and all these billboards and ads were just like people in a bathroom stall with a magazine about cheeseburgers, sitting there smacking their lips, going, oh God, I just want that cheeseburger. You would think, you're like, dude, something's not right here. Somebody's prioritizing something that. Are people starving? They don't look starving.
Yeah.
Nobody's sexually starving in America, for sure. Nobody's sitting there going like, oh God, like we've been repressed for so long, we just can't wait to just whip it out all over the place and have sex with everybody. No, that's not the problem. Actually, what we see is like an increasing feed of this appetite that only grows, because it's not an appetite like hunger. You don't eat and then are full, like just like sex. Like the way you feed it matters. What you feed it matters. Just like your mind, just like your body,
100%.
just like your body, right? Like what you put in comes out. And so I don't know, like some people just need to bump it up or something. Like I know for a fact that users of intravenous drugs don't go from, I'm a kid who's going to college, to give me that needle. They don't go there. And I've asked several of them, like, dude, how did you get to a needle? And Shay was the one that told me, was like, dude, I never thought I'd stick a needle in my arm. I never thought I would.
Yeah,
You know,
dude,
suddenly he just was.
and
That's
I hear
why
that all the time.
That's why you get to this like Mr. Hands guy in Washington. Like, how did he get from married man or whatever, engineer at Boeing, to literally breaking into a barn and bending over in front of a horse and having like other people help do that? That's how he died.
I have no idea what you're talking
Okay,
about. What
so
is this?
Mr. Hands?
I didn't hear about Mr.
Mr. Hands was the horse, and they basically like this guy. They were filming it too. Like it was like in 2005 or 2006. You can look it up, and actually the video's out there too. I do not recommend it.
Okay.
But basically, like, I guess the story was he got in a road accident and he lost sensitivity, and so like, okay, I can understand that. But he kept having to bump it up, and the pleasure and pain got crossed to where like he just wanted to feel something, right? And like I can kind of understand how that feels. Like I can't feel anything in this finger after I cut it, like the tip of it. It's hard to play guitar. So I try to imagine this, like, but my, right?
But you're junk.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, that would suck. I'd be like punching it and be like, I can't. Why, God? Right? So like I am trying to understand and put myself in his perspective, because I'm like, dude, you're a normal guy. How did you go to like this level of bestiality? So basically, he was like kept bumping it up with like toys, bigger toys. It's a guy.
Okay.
It's a guy, so you know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it ended up being like he like met this group in Washington where like they would break into a barn and use this horse called Mr. Hands, and they would stimulate the horse and have the horse do the thing. But like, my whole point is this: like, he wasn't born that way. Okay, he wasn't born with just like, yay, horses! I like horses. I want to be a cowboy. Except they don't. I don't ride them, right?
Yeah.
So like, he wasn't born that way. He like bumped it up and bumped it up and bumped it up, and like fed that appetite.
It's the same thing as alcoholism, dude. Right? Like a lot of people are like,
I don't know if this is too heavy for this.
oh, dude, it's the podcast, bro.
Right.
Like some episodes are light, some episodes are deep. Like on a side note, the one with the most plays is the first one, and that's probably the heaviest topic we've covered until just now.
Yeah, I tried not to be like, I tried to be very objective in that, because like I understand. I know I'm very secure in my Christianity and what I believe, but I also I want to know why other people were also like, what makes you Muslim and why do you think that's true?
Well, dude,
like,
I mean, dude, it's the nature of this podcast. So it's called Pathways, the pathway through, right? We're not, nothing here said, we're not saying anything in the sense that you should believe these things because we're talking about it. It's just a conversation about how we got to where we at, and hey, let's try to understand why other people think about things the way they do.
Dude, one of the biggest things is I was told like Buddhists like don't like deny all pleasure and stuff, and like that's not really what they're saying. I didn't realize that at the time because people were misleading me, because they just were like, oh, Buddhism is a bunch of joke. But like, when the more I looked at it, I was like, okay, they're saying pleasure, the pursuit of pleasure for pleasure's sake is not the highest calling, and in fact it leads to ruin, because you start looking for like, I just want to feel good and be comfortable, and that's not life. That's not what life is. That's not, first of all, it's not fulfillment, right?
That's why you need more and more, because it's just not fulfilling.
Exactly. So the pursuit of pleasure only leads to wanting pleasure more. And somebody said it perfectly the other day. They were saying like, it's just like an addict. Like you do it because it feels good, and then you're doing it just to not feel bad. Right? And it's the same as pleasure.
Yeah, dude,
like,
that's exactly it.
You're doing it because it feels good, and then eventually you're doing it because you don't like how it feels when you're not doing it.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. One, I always bring about the alcoholism only it's so like easily understandable and recognizable in the sense that you do it so many times, and I've had this conversation with many people. Like, I'm not getting drunk anymore. I just don't want to feel like crap anymore. So I keep drinking because it hurts when I don't drink.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally, right? Because I took a mental toll on myself, and now I'm thinking about the effed up stuff I did, and physically I feel like crap.
Black that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I wonder how often, like, or wonder how, like, applicable this is to, say, like a mental concept. Like, I don't like how it feels to not be loved, so I just go chasing love wherever I can get it. And I think that's a lot of, like, promiscuous people, is that I know for myself, like, I like having somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I like having somebody want my attention, and I think that's normal. But I know that sometimes, like in the times when I'm single, like I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel good. Like, you want validation. So, but I wonder if some people chase that validation to the point where it's like, even if you're getting it from somebody significant, you want to also make sure that you have other people giving it to you too, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's that I don't know what's going on out there.
So it causes like, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of like a cheating light or whatever when they don't do anything, but they say a bunch of stuff and pass messages and stuff
Yeah.
is like, they don't, it's not that you aren't giving them attention. It's that they have that like addiction to it now and they need the, you know.
Well, that's why it's so important to take things like, it's funny that that the whole point of this podcast was to talk about like, my question for today was taking pop culture things too seriously, and now it's funny we brought it full circle because we're talking about taking things not seriously that you should be taking seriously.
Yeah. Well, that maybe that's the issue, is that we're focusing on the things that don't matter and all the things that do matter going by the wayside. That kind of sounds like human history, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like there's all kinds of things that I think are a bigger deal than even guns, even the right to own guns, even the right to have an abortion. There's things that are bigger than that even.
Well, I remember like a couple years ago, this is what really got me into this mindset. I remember this one girl was at church. She was complaining about we were throwing away the batteries that were like half dead. And like, obviously you don't want a half dead battery. It can probably last the whole show, but let's put a new one in there and make sure that it lasts the whole show. And she's like, oh, we're throwing away all these batteries. And I'm like, dude, I work at a place where, you know, people die. Like people coming off of heroin, drugs, and alcohol, like they die. That's what I deal with. So I'm sorry that I'm not concerned about your battery situation.
Well, okay, so let me that's a good point of departure, because I actually feel like, so in my industry we waste a lot of petroleum products and a lot of nylon, and so I want to like start a business that takes all that material and repurposes it, and like I was like, dude, all of this material can be recycled in some way or repurposed in some way. It just can. We make frisbee golfs out of the freaking nylon, and something out of the petroleum products. But my point is, like, we throw away so much that it does bother me. So when I'm working, I try to save a lot of it. Yeah, but here's the thing, like,
go ahead.
It's not a life and death situation, but for me right now, right there, I can do a little bit. And
no, so but to your credit, you're not like posting it on social media and complaining about it. You are doing something about it.
Yeah, okay, good point.
You're doing something about it. And so so I brought up the battery thing, and that's not as big an issue as what I'm dealing with. But at the same time, you're talking about something that may not be as big an issue as the other topics we've covered today. But instead of just complaining about it, you're like, I'm gonna find a solution for this.
Right, but what you're basically saying about the battery thing is like it's kind of like ad hoc, because it's basically, it'd be like me saying, well, there's starving kids in Africa that are all dying, way more than people think dying. Like, so like the battery thing is still an issue. It's just that, like, okay, it's an issue that doesn't require society's focus. You have the focus on it. Do something about it.
Well, and that's kind of my point. Like, don't talk about it, be about it. So whatever your issue is, just be about it.
This is a big problem in, like, especially the first 2 years of college. Like, people, like, there's always like these persuasive essays with what time was timestamp?
58 minutes.
Okay. There's always like people saying like, well, we need a call to action for this issue, and it's like bottom trawling from like marine life and stuff, and it's like, does this need a call to action, or does this maybe need you and a select few group of people like do the thing to make the law and advocate or whatever? Does this need all of us to drop what we're doing and fix this? Is that this level of problem, or is this not, you know?
You know what, dude? I was thinking about the other day, because there's all these YouTube videos about all these issues that need solving, and I'm like, what I like about Mr. Beast is instead of just like making a call to action about it, he's like, yeah, we're gonna do something about it right now, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that I'm behind.
Yeah.
Like he teamed up with another big YouTuber, and they're cleaning up this river that's all super dirty, and I'm like, yeah, you're bringing awareness to it. You're also doing something about it, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is like, you have your issue, you brought it up, but then if you don't do anything about it, because you're waiting for, it's full circle, dude. Like, you're waiting for somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like the Roe v. Wade thing. You're yelling about it, hoping that a bunch of other people do what you want to be done. Basically.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's kind of it, dude. Like,
you want everybody else mad so that they'll go riot in the streets because you won't just go grab a hammer and do it yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get in trouble.
I always bring up alcoholism because I work at a detox, so it's like my strongest field of knowledge. I don't have a problem bringing awareness to it, but I'd rather just do something about it. And so I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of my litmus test of what a big deal is like, am I going to do something about this? No. Then it's not that big a deal, because if it were to me, just like I was saying in the beginning, if it were to me, then there would be an action that follows.
Yeah.
And like there's other things that like in my own life like that I think I want to do, but I must not want to do it because I'm not taking any action. So some of that could be procrastination, but I think most of it's like my heart's not really into it. It's a good idea, but like for instance, like when I wanted to be a business attorney, business law, right? Started reading about property law specifically, and I was just kind of like, I started talking to this lawyer in LA because she would come down to South Coast Plaza and hang out at the bar.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her about it, and she was telling me the nature of the work, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Dude, that's the thing too. Is it's anything worthwhile is difficult.
I still have her card. I was just like, yeah, it's not difficult. It's tedious in a way I didn't think it would be. Like a lot of it's
difficult can mean different things.
Yeah,
right?
true.
It's like learning how to play guitar. I don't think is that difficult, but getting really good at it and doing all the shredding stuff, like that's hard, right? And so playing the guitar is difficult in the sense that I have to learn the thing, but getting to the basics is not hard. It is difficult because it's time consuming. You need to do it every day. You need to get your routine.
Perfect example, dude. Is like I wanted to learn new chord progressions that I don't normally use, like a lot of like seventh chords and jazz chords specifically, just because a lot of people ask me to play stuff and I usually play the same songs. It's like now I add it to my arsenal of like songs that people will listen to, like Lifehouse and stuff like that people will like. Everybody knows the song, and everybody will be like, oh, okay, like West Virginia, take me home.
Well, and it's and it's less that they will enjoy it, and more of that they know it, therefore they will enjoy it because everybody knows.
You don't want to hear some song that like nobody's ever heard of me playing it and sitting there like, oh, it's a one man show. No, you want to hear something. You want the fiddler to carry the tune, right?
Yeah.
You just want the minstrel to play.
You want the jukebox.
Yeah, so I'll play, but I wanted to add some stuff that's just kind of like nice and bright and like something you could play in the background, like say like having a dinner or something. Like I would just play it. But I'd come home and I'd be like, well, what do I do when I get home? Do I pull up the chords that I saved at work to learn them? No, I don't. I just play what I want to play, right?
Yeah.
Or I just doodle a little bit and go, that sounds good. I'm putting this down. You know why I do? Because guitar is a really cool hobby of mine, and music is a passion, but it's not something that like I pursued with like everything in me, you know?
Yeah, because I didn't pursue it with vigor.
And that's not because I don't have the chutzpah. It's because I have other interests that compete for that. I have a competing interest in engineering. I have a competing interest in programming. I have a competing interest in politics. I have all these competing interests that cannot fill up everything, right? So I decided to just sort of be a jack of all trades, master of none. But how's the rest of that phrase go?
I don't know.
I gotta look this up now because
the
ending phrase is awesome. Go ahead.
I get what you're saying because I was the same thing. It was, I sort of play guitar, I sort of mix music, I sort of do this, I sort of do that, and I was like, okay, let me pick one thing. Okay, I'm good enough at guitar, so I'm gonna get better at engineering because I want to be at least be a master of one thing.
I want to be proficient at it.
Yeah,
right. So the quote goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Okay.
Right. So like sometimes I look back and I'm like, I should have just like stuck with one thing. But most of the time I'm like, dude, I'm glad I have like all these other different things to do because like my life is never boring.
Yeah.
I don't understand when I can sit there and be reading for 2 hours about crypto and not be bored. The problem is that usually when people are around me, they're bored because they don't share the same interests as me. They have like maybe we have one or two overlapping interests, but they're, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly. What
I do want to get proficient at it. Like for instance, moonwalking, right? I got just good enough to do it for like 20 seconds. So like if I'm at a wedding or something, it's like, oh, this guy moonwalked. Dude, I'm not sitting there like Michael Jackson busted out everything or freaking Chris Brown. You know what I mean?
You're not busting a move. You're busting like you are. You're busting a move and then and then moving on.
Bust a move and then go hit the punchline.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah, man.
Big deal, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for listening. My co-host Brandon Hebert.
Yo ma.
Yep, there it is. We
Yo
forgot
ma.
that one last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a couple of those in there.
Yo ma. Yo ma was the famous cellist.
Yo Ma was
Cellist.
cellist.
Bush.
Bush.
Dude,
Bushwhacker.
what were we saying the
Bushwhacker.
other day? What were we saying the other day? It was, oh yeah, you don't start letting go now. That's what happens.
Oh God. Not for the kids.
I know. I'm not going to. But just like it's just funny the way we latched onto that. That was my freshman year.
That
was my freshman year. Happened one
like
time.
15 years ago. Yeah.
One time, and I'm still going. If you don't start letting go now, then that's what happens.
Yeah. You know, it's on a side note. You know, it's funny is we do those Instagram things where we say nonsense and we think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll be in here. My wife will be like, "Are you voicing with your brother again? I don't get it." And I'm like, "Yeah," and it's not something I can explain to any. There's one person in this world who gets it.
Michelle will do that too. She just let me do my thing. Like I'm dying, cracking up, and she's just happy to see me dying laughing. She's like, just keep going. It's could clearly enjoy it.
Yeah. Yep. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, dude.
That was fun. That was a good conversation.
Good talk.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Pathway. Peace.
Yo ma.